You are live.
We are live. This is the Senate Education Committee, February 5th. We're back after a short break. And I just want to, before I introduce, the committee, I want to introduce one more from all the guiding principles. I want us to be thinking, and partially because the secretary said this, world-class education system. So, okay, now.
I've got a world-class education system for you.
So, we have, our topic at 2:45 is the Vermont State College system. Vision for the future, we have Dr. Elizabeth
Mauk.
Say it again.
Mauk.
Okay. The Chancellor and Sharon Scott, the Chief Financial and Operating Officer. And so again, we invited you here today to state the obvious. The state college system is deeply important to Vermont and the honors and provides opportunity for a lot of young people who would otherwise not get the opportunity, and so we wanted to take the time as a committee this afternoon to invite you in and have you just talk to us about where you're going, what you're trying to accomplish, and what we should be looking for.
Excellent. Well, we thank you for this opportunity. For the record, I'm Beth Mauk, the Chancellor of the Vermont State Colleges System, and I have sitting next to me Sharon Scott, who is our Chief Financial and Operating Officer. And I do want to thank you, Chair Baumgartz, and the committee for this opportunity to present to you today. And actually, something you just said really resonated with me. For kids that might not otherwise go to college, I can tell you that's why I'm here. My mother, when she was little, was told that people like her didn't go to college, and she wanted to make sure I didn't hear that. And the only difference between me sitting in front of you now and her is my ability to have gone to college. And I just think it's so important for every student to hear that. So thank you for that. And let me just start. So I will actually talk just about where we've been, where we're going, and then Sharon's going to talk a little bit about our budget. That's just to sort of preview that for you. So the Vermont State Colleges was established by the legislature for the benefit of Vermont. And what that means is that we believe that every Vermonter, regardless of their income or location, should have access to high quality higher education in order to get a good job when they're done. And what that means is that we've really got to be driving the workforce to make sure that Vermont's economy grows, but then also that we've got to be ready to prepare students of all ages for today's opportunities. Now, let me just take you back a little bit. So it wasn't that many years ago that the Vermont State Colleges system was frankly in dire financial straits. At one point, we had 8 days of cash on hand. The legislature stepped in along with the select committee and really helped us at that point. And what we realized through that process, at 2020, yes. What we realized at that point was that there were structural problems and challenges with the way that the system was being run. I want to thank this committee and the legislature as a whole for really believing in us and helping us through that hard time. I today have very good news for you as we're moving forward, but it is because of the legislature's support at that time that I have it. I can tell you that we are turning a corner. We're starting to see some real positive momentum, and I'm so happy to be here today to share that with you. And on a personal level, besides my mother, I'm also excited. My family and I moved to Vermont almost 2 years ago. We have enjoyed our time here, getting to know Vermont, and really have become ingrained in our community in Cornwall and are enjoying it. And I am so proud and honored to be the chancellor as we really are making a lot of these changes that need to be made. So just a little bit about our structure. So the Vermont State Colleges system is comprised of 2 institutions, the Community College of Vermont and Vermont State University. The Community College of Vermont has 12 centers throughout the state, and the Vermont State University has 5 campus locations. These are throughout our very rural state, Bennington to Montpelier to St. Albans and everywhere in between. We have more than 850 employees in the Vermont State Colleges system, And they really are part of the fabric of life in these communities, and we're very proud of that as well. A couple of the ways that we've been able to help Vermont in the last couple of years. So one of the things that we all know is that we are having challenges across the country, but certainly here in Vermont with healthcare systems. And we were asked to really beef up how we're training nurses. We've done that. We've answered that call. Just this last year, we graduated 500 nurses. And these are folks that about 90% of them are going right back into Vermont's economy. It's just so important of that building block. Secondly, we've also had some challenges with flooding in the last couple of years. Our Small Business Development Center at the height of some of those floods reached out to the small businesses that were impacted by the floods and really helped those small business owners understand what they needed to do to get themselves back up and working again. And we're very proud of all of the contributions that we've been able to make to the state. And again, it really is in part because of you. So the leadership of the Vermont State Colleges system is me, along with President Joyce Judy, who I know all of you know, and President Dave Berg at the Vermont State University. You may be asking, what is it exactly that a chancellor does? So you can think of the Vermont State Colleges system as a corporation where the chancellor is the CEO under many different divisions, and in this case, that being the Community College of Vermont and Vermont State University. And really what I'm tasked with, again, if we're talking about being for the benefit of Vermont, is ensuring that we have seamless pathways for our students to move forward through, that we're leveraging the power of the system so that our students have the best quality of education, but that we're doing it in a way that makes sense financially and also for them. And so without the chancellor's role and without that centralized office, we would have a lot of disparate units that were doing pieces for themselves and not really looking at this as a system together. That certainly has been one thing that I've really been focused on in my first year here as chancellor. In addition, we also have a board of trustees. There are 4 legislative trustees, along with 5 trustees that are appointed by the governor. And let me just tell you, this is one of the hardest working boards I've ever worked with. And they've made some difficult decisions. They cut $5 million a year from the budget at Vermont State University over these last several years. They reduced their workforce by 15%. But at the same time, they were really focused on ensuring that we had strategic reserves in order to meet some of the deferred maintenance challenges that we had had over many years. And I'm really just proud of all of the work that the board did before I arrived, but certainly what they've done since I've been here. And the state investment really is driving change. So the next thing I want to talk about is, what do our students look like today? Because I think when we're thinking college students, we're thinking, 18 to 22-year-olds on a campus. In reality, the average student age of students across this country is 27. The things that they are most concerned about are having flexible opportunities for higher ed learning.
You said across the country. Is that also true for?
Roughly, yes. 27 okay. And part-time students are our traditional students who are in a 4-year program. Their average is 22 years of age, still skewing older than what we might traditionally think of. And one of the challenges with that is that they are expecting that college is going to be, I'm doing my life and also have to be doing college at the same time, but that college isn't their whole life. And so we really have tried to meet the needs of those students. But then the other thing that they're so concerned about, and this is again why I really want to thank the legislature, is they're worried about how they're going to pay their tuition bill. Now, nationally also, we talk about student loan debt, but in reality, it's not student loan debt that's concerning most of our students. It's how am I going to pay the bill next semester in the fall? I'm here now. I don't even know how I'm going to pay that bill. And frankly, what the legislature has stepped up and done with 802 opportunity and other opportunities like that for our students has really helped them. So let me just talk about a couple of things we've been able to do. I said we were a system. One of the things we've been able to do is to leverage that system. So right now, a student at CCV or VTSU can take a college course at any one of our locations, either remotely or in person. We have been looking to deliberately increase the number of online classes and have done that and hybrid courses. One of the reasons that we've done that is that that's really what our students are asking for. So, you know, a lot of times we put up in-person sections and online sections. There's a real demand for those online sections. We did cut the tuition at VTSU prior to my tenure here. And again, as I mentioned, the 802 Opportunity Grant and also Tuition Advantage and the McClure Foundation really have been programs that have helped the Community College of Vermont over these last few years. We have developed career-aligned programs for our students to make sure that we're meeting those demands that Vermont has currently, the nursing example being a good one. And frankly, these have been both exciting and necessary changes. As I mentioned, we knew that we had a structural challenge with this system, but we are starting to see really good progress. One of the things that the select committee reports was looking for was for us to have a balanced budget by 2027. And I can tell you today that we are projecting that we will be balanced by that year. So we're very excited for that. But we know that we've got to continue to make these changes so that we're meeting the needs of today's students, because we need to continue on that path of financial viability. So let me tell you about the great news on our enrollment and our workforce impact. So this past year, we had 2,000 graduates. We served 10,000 degree-seeking students and another 7,000 workforce students who were looking to be in workforce programs. 80% of those students are from Vermont. So we are serving Vermont. And this year alone, in the fall of 2024, Vermont State University had a 14% increase in new students, so students who had chosen for the first time to come to Vermont State University. And we're projecting a similar increase this year. So what we've done and, you know, having these programs and making sure that we are seamlessly aligned really is starting to resonate with folks in Vermont and beyond. Now, okay, go ahead. Do you want to?
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Of the out of state, are there a decent chunk that are international?
There's a reasonable chunk that's international, but it's relatively small.
Okay. Okay.
So both the Community College of Vermont and Vermont State University have international students, particularly Community College of Vermont. When you look at their Winooski Center,
Yeah.
it has a large a new American population, international population. Vermont State University does as well, but it's not a huge component of their work.
I'm gonna have to leave early, but my plug today would be help us get people more student visas so they can stay in the state in a challenging immigration climate and make it affordable for people to send them there, you know, to be able to stay in our state.
I also just had a quick
Sure,
question.
go ahead.
That's all right. Sorry to interrupt the train here. The do you happen to know the ballpark estimate percentage change from 2023 for enrollment? Is it up, down, around the same?
So when I talk about 14% increase, that's just new students.
Mhm.
We've actually been somewhat flat overall, but if you'll remember, we did have a decline in new students for a couple of years, so we're sort of evening out now. So even as we're having double-digit increases in new students, it'll probably take us a couple of years to start seeing that in the overall population.
Okay, thanks.
So in terms of the Community College of Vermont, they actually bucked a national trend post-COVID and during the COVID years. Most community colleges saw double digits into 20% plus declines in enrollment. With your 802 Opportunity Scholarship and the work with the McClure Foundation, the Community College of Vermont was actually able to increase enrollment during that period, and they have held steady year over year for the last couple of years. And Vermont State University, as Chancellor Mauck just said, did see declines, fairly significant declines during COVID and for the last 3 years, but they are starting to build back. And with a 4-year trajectory of traditional age students, you have to really consume the lower numbers before you see your numbers rising again in any significant way.
Thanks.
And so let me, just again, remind you of some of these programs and then just what their impact has been. So the McClure Foundation has funded the Free Degree Promise Scholarship for the last several years, to have students who have had their first year in early college, they can get a second year for free. That really has cut the time that many of those students have been able to get a degree. Let me just mention the 802
So
opportunity.
before you do that, tell us a little bit more about the McClure Foundation.
Sure.
Is that ongoing, time limited?
It is time limited. It is ongoing right now. I think they've promised another 2 years of funding.
I
Does
believe
that sound
so.
right? So
So it's for first and second year students?
for the first year that they would have been in early college, it's actually for second year students who did their first year as early college. So really, again,
Oh, okay.
to serve more Vermonters.
So if they've concluded their first year in early college at the community college, the gift from the McClure Foundation will give them a free year to conclude their degree, to receive their associate's degree, so they can have that a single year after graduating from high school, which is very exciting.
Okay, and you said that's for another couple of years?
I think 2 years.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the notion is not always just how many students have we increased, but also how many more students are completing a degree. So the retention rate of students is up as well. To just move on to 802 opportunity, last year we served about 2,600 Vermonters with this program. It is a program where any family making $75,000 or less a year has an opportunity to go to the Community College of Vermont for free. Now that program, in addition, has 73% of those students are the first in their family to go to college, and another 69% of them are older than 25. So when we're starting to see these statistics, we are really noticing students skewing to the older ages. There also is a tuition advantage program that last year served 900 students in high need areas across the state. So we're very proud of that as well. In addition, we work on access days and other ways to get high school students into our campuses and centers around the state so that they can actually see what is college as early as the middle school, because we know in middle schools when they're really starting to make those decisions, and we've been really proud of those programs. In addition to hundreds of college fairs that we go to every year. So, and here in the state of Vermont, we really are focusing on how to engage more high school students from Vermont in our programs. So, one of the things you heard me say at the beginning of this presentation is something that we're calling VSC Vision 2030, which really is driving innovation and access. So again, our mission and why we were established was for the benefit of Vermont. And again, that vision then means that we know and we believe that every Vermonter should have access to high quality higher education, regardless of their income or their location. And what we are looking to do is to ensure that we are continually developing our workforce programs so that we can grow Vermont's economy and ensure that we are at every age helping Vermonters be ready for today's opportunities. So I really do have a vision for the future when you talk about the future of higher ed. And so the very first thing is really noting this online growth vision. This is where students are asking us to be high quality online programs, hybrid programs that really do meet the needs of today's students. Looking for these seamless transfers so that students who might want to stack a credential or want to go from CCV to BTSU have the easiest way of doing it among our entire program of courses. And then looking to expand apprenticeships. So one of the things I believe is that we know that our students want to have a life and a college career at the same time. They want to earn money while they're learning. And so an apprenticeship allows them to be taking the skills that they're learning in classes and go out and actually apply some of the skills that they're learning as they're doing it. And then having also a housing transformation. If we know that our students are older and we know that they want to have a life as they're doing their college courses, then we really need to be making a priority of looking at what kinds of housing we can have so that these students can be year-round students and be part of the communities that we already live in. So we're very excited about that as well. And one thing to just note is that our future will not look like our past. We know that we've got to be making these changes in online delivery, in seamless transfers, in looking at apprenticeships for all students, in really looking at this housing transformation so that we can really be ingrained in our communities and looking for ways that we can meet the needs of our future students. I just have 4 example programs so you can see sort of what we're doing. The first one is a career pathways entry program. So trying to show folks what it is they can do when they're in college. These are 6-week programs where students get a $560 stipend and they leave with at least 3 college credits typically. One example, William Atkin, who was referred by Beta Technologies, was in a career and changed careers was able to transition as a result of this program. And he described it as transitioning from a career that he described as stagnating. And so he really could measure what that access point was for him.
So what was that about? What was the?
I don't remember his, so the specifics for him, he was interested in moving into a quality assurance position. And he was in a role that he really felt was leading to a dead end. So what the Career Explorations program allowed him to do was to explore various options and to do some job shadowing and get some hands-on training that allowed him to transition. And he's actually employed by Beta now. So he describes it himself as his dream job, and he's really excited by it. So it's a program that we're very excited by because it really does begin to make some transitions for individuals to allow them to get some skills and some opportunities to really be able to advance into that next thing in their career.
Next is the early childhood education program, which we do have throughout our entire Vermont State Colleges system. CCV in particular has 4 different certificates that students can seamlessly stack so that they're able to go in and constantly be increasing, and it will eventually lead them to an associate's degree. These courses are offered either over the full semester or in an accelerated format. Once students have completed all of their programs at CCV, they can transfer seamlessly into a Vermont State University program. In the picture above is a woman named Liz Clark. She took advantage of this. So she took these courses that were stackable. She then went to Vermont State University and is currently a student there. So was able to do this 2+2 program. Next are plumbing and electrical programs, apprenticeship programs. So these are some of the examples of apprenticeship programs I'm thinking of. This program grew 20% in 2 years. We had a record high 870 apprenticeships. This is last year. These programs, as I was mentioned for apprenticeships, allow our students to have hands-on experience while they're learning some of the curriculum that they need. In particular, Rick McGrath, who is a department manager at Vermont Mechanical, he really says he just enjoys these partnerships. He's so proud of the way that he's able to have his apprentices both at his place of employment, but then also having folks have the college experience. And then finally, I was mentioning nursing. We have a strong record of success in nursing and allied health. So as I mentioned, there were 500 graduates who were nurses this past year at over both CCV and VTSU. 90% of those were Vermonters. We currently have 1,000 students enrolled. We also have a strong record in our dental hygiene program. We had 46 grads there last year. 75 are currently enrolled. We're just so happy that our graduates are able to every day help Vermonters. In addition, we received a congressionally directed spending fund from Senator
Sanders?
sorry, no, Leahy or Welsh.
Yeah.
Welsh. I'm sorry.
We had 2.
Welsh. He gave us congressionally directed spending funds so that we could build a new opportunity for dental hygienists in Vermont. So that's very exciting. I'm sorry. Now that I know.
What's the big uptick in nursing? 250.
So really the great news that we have in nursing, your critical occupation scholarships that you funded as part of the ARPA funds made an enormous difference in the lives of the individuals seeking health professions. particularly nursing and mental health counseling. Those scholarships were life-changing for them. The ability to be able to continue into their education not only brought them into the classroom, but it also, we're noticing information that helped us see that it helped us complete those students. So as Chancellor Mouth mentioned at the start of her testimony, what students are worried about is not necessarily just the amount of the student loan debt that they're going to have for the next 20 years. They're worried about how they're going to pay that bill next semester, or how they're going to make their car payment next month. Your critical occupation scholarship were the difference between these students not only enrolling in these nursing programs or the mental health counseling programs, but finishing those programs. And that was incredibly exciting and something that we are able to see in the numbers.
So you keep talking about it in the past tense. Remind me.
Unfortunately, those ARPA dollars have concluded, and the last dollars that we were able to award were this past fall. So those monies have run out. So unfortunately, we don't have them available to us before. But if we look at it in terms of a pilot, it has shown us where there are differences that can be made. With programs that are of vital importance, we can see that it makes an enormous difference. So while we don't have a specific request related to them right now, it has given us thoughts as to where we would need to go in the future.
So following up on Senator Weeks' question, would you then attribute that, maybe you already did answer this question, but do you attribute that increase of 250 to that program?
I think in part it's attributable to the program. It's also a really strong emphasis that the university has placed on health professions, and that we as citizens are also placing on health professions. Individuals see how important having nursing is, and so people do see that as viable careers. For us, it's having enough seats available, and that's where some of these congressionally designated spending comes in. We have a grant of $6.3 million that is being directed towards our ability to be able to build out additional nursing sites so that we can bring more students in
Right
to
now,
do
is
that
it all at
pipeline.
Castleton?
It is not all at Castleton.
Okay.
Largely, our locations for nursing are all over the state. Castleton has a program that is at its residential campus location and in southern Vermont. But we also have locations at Randolph and through many other sites through Vermont that have been run through what was formerly Vermont Technical College. And that is a laddered credential program that allows us to go through the PRN program all the way through an RN program.
So Senator Weeks.
So it's a combination of scholarships and facility enhancements.
Yeah, and I would say our focus on nursing. I would also say it is this notion of doing the nursing program in this sort of laddered way so that people can see themselves in the career. One of the things we've been able to do, especially with the CCV programs, is looking at bringing professionals who are working in a hospital already in a career that's maybe not directly tied to nursing. They see themselves in the career, they know they like the helping professions, and so they can start in these programs and get laddered from them and can ladder their way up to eventually get a BSN in nursing and really be a leader in the state. And so I do think it's a combination of both those critical occupation scholarships, but also just our focus on nursing and the way that we have really met the need for nurses across the state. And this is definitely a model for all of the trades when we talk about apprenticeships.
And the employers, so the University of Vermont Health Center and other employers are a huge part of that, working with their incumbent workforce and building partnerships to get those students through the pipeline. Those are important elements of this as well. It is absolutely multifaceted. For us, our ability to be able to have more seats available, particularly for nursing, is vital to be able to educate more nurses. And we know it's important.
And then we're also working on nursing faculty, because that's another challenge that certainly we have around the state, is to ensure that we have enough folks who can teach the nurses. We do have an MSN program, which has shown increases this year, so that we have nurses who can actually help us to teach, more nurses to teach more students, so we get more students in seats.
So one of the things I think I picked up on you alluding to throughout the slides is that the notion of graduating can mean sometimes a certificate, sometimes a 2-year, sometimes a 4-year.
Yes.
And there's a lot of it is certificates, I think, right? Because it's a kind of immediate, quick and immediate, and as people get to another level, is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes, that you're letting people ladder up and really see it, have a success,
Okay,
so,
yeah,
yes.
that's what you're talking
Yes.
about.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
and I think for many students, as Chancellor Mack notes, they're older and they want time to be able to get that next credential, be able to get the promotion, get more income, have their families, and then have the time to do the next one. Having off-ramps to be able to have a credential that is meaningful, that allows them to be able to advance their career is vitally important. And it really means us rethinking the way that we do education. And we do that exceptionally well when it comes to nursing education. So I am going to take over the next section and talk just a little bit about our budget. I expect that you will probably have us in at a later date to talk in more detail. But for the record, my name is Sharon Scott. I am the Chief Financial and Operating Officer of the Vermont State Colleges. I've been in this role since 2020, but I've been with the Vermont State Colleges since 2003. I am a native Vermonter. I live in Morrisville. I have two kids who both went through the Vermont State Colleges system and are graduates of them. One is now a teacher and the other one is currently looking for employment. So if you're interested, putting a little plug out there. I want to take you back just a little bit to where we were. As Chancellor Mauck notes, in 2020, we had about 8 days of cash on hand. It was a pretty dire situation. And with all that was happening in the world with COVID, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to make payroll. Fortunately, the legislature stepped in and provided bridge funding for us to allow us to be able to have the time to look at restructuring and really looking at transforming the way that we did our work. And that was done with the Select Committee on the Future of Public Higher Education. And in 2021, Act 77 really enshrined what that was going to look at. And we've really been looking at that path ever since. And we're excited to share that we've made really great progress on that. We're not out of the woods yet. As the CFO, I would never say we are totally out of the woods. But what I can say is I can see the edge of the woods. And that to me is really huge. Because I've been visiting your committee for 4 years now, and that's not something I've been able to say, and I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish up to this point. We're going to get there. I can see the finish line. Not that we'll ever actually be done, because there'll be something new on the horizon, but I'm very excited about where we are. And one of the things that I just wanted to point out is that like all industries, the Vermont State Colleges and the higher education uses measurements, financial measures. Ours is called the Composite Financial Index. And for the 10 years leading up to 2020, our Composite Financial Index, which we did not calculate, but we have since calculated it, would have told us that we should have been assessing our viability to survive. Our Composite Financial Index now tells us that we should be directing our resources to transforming and redesigning the way we are. And that's exactly what we're doing today. So I'm really proud of where we are. I'm also really, really grateful, deeply appreciative and thankful of what the legislature and Governor Scott have done for the Vermont State Colleges. Since 2020, we've seen a 67% increase in our general fund appropriation, and that frankly is unheard of and a testament to the incredible support that you have for the power of what Vermont State Colleges does for the citizens of Vermont, and I'm incredibly appreciative of that, as well as the substantial bridge funding that you've provided. So while I expect that we'll probably be invited in to talk to you in more detail about our budget, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a preview as to what our request is. And what we're requesting is a 5.9% increase in our base. And that's bringing us to $53.97 million. And plus $5 million in bridge funding. And that increase is really comprised of two factors on the base appropriation. A 3% increase, as was originally recommended by the governor's budget instructions from this past fall, plus an additional 1.5 million. That additional 1.5 million recognizes the changes that were made last year in Act 113 that decreased the system's required structural deficit from 25 million to $22 million. And so an additional 1.5 million was added to our base last year with an understanding that another 1.5 million would be added this year. So we're asking for that full amount. We're also requesting $5 million in bridge funding, and that is consistent with the asks that we've been making of you since 2021. So as shown here, the governor's recommended $52.5 million in the general fund appropriation, plus $5 million in bridge funding, and $1 million to fund CCV's tuition advantage program. And then we also have a capital ask, and we're requesting $21.5 million in capital funds to support statewide major maintenance efforts, a renovation of Jeffords Hall at Castleton campus of the Vermont State University, and a replacement of the central heating plant at their Johnson campus. These projects are really focused on life, safety, heat, warmth, property preservation, and they really drive directly to the heart of what we do, keeping our students safe and healthy. So we recognize the limits of the capital budget, and the VSC has focused efforts these last few years, as Chancellor Mauck has noted, on finding its own funds and sources of funding to be able to address deferred maintenance and other needs. For example, we have 2 congressionally designated spending funds totaling more than $12 million that are directed towards capital infrastructure and equipment needs for health education and dental hygiene education. We also funded more than $3 million in deferred maintenance and project needs of our own this past year. So we really have taken it very seriously that we need to also put skin in the game, because we know that your funds are very, very limited. So we know that you have a lot of difficult choices ahead of you this session. There are many, many things on your plate, and we just want to thank you for giving us the time to talk today, and we can answer any other questions you might have.
So the congressional funds that you've received have been for program expansion, buildings to accommodate program expansion, which is different than what you've been asking for. What you're asking for here is different, which is money to hold existing things.
Yes. In the past, we have asked for funds, for example, for the replacement and expansion of nursing simulation equipment. And that's been something that you as a body have allocated to us a little more than $750,000 a few years ago. That allowed us to be able to replace simulation equipment that in some cases was well past its useful life and making education very, very difficult. This allows us to expand those programs without having to come back to you as a body to say, look, in order for us to do this, we really need more equipment, we need more space, and we need your help to make that happen. So we're really focused on trying to find other sources, federal sources, private partnerships, private sources, and really look for what those opportunities are wherever we can, but we can't do it alone, and that's why we do come to you.
Questions? Anybody? Comments? Yes.
I see the governor's recommending 8 million, and you're 21 million. What did he give last year?
Last year, the adjustment, so it's done in a biennium cycle. Yep. So last year, it was adjusted to $6.5 million.
And did we add anything to that, or is it just what the governor?
No, we actually added to that. So the additional $3 million that we spent this past year was money that the Vermont State Colleges put in. $600,000 of that was for one of the projects that was allocated, and $2 million was allocated, a little more than $2.5 million was allocated to major maintenance.
So just to make sure we understand the request for operating, it's 1.5 million for what the governor's recommend, and for capital, it's another 13.
13.
Yeah. 13 million. Okay. Yeah.
Any notions of how potentially to better utilize the free satellite access as opposed to customers? Are there any, this kind of an old conversation, but subject matter, centers of excellence, anything to, for the out years, the next 5 to 10 years?
Certainly something that I have looked at, as we've mentioned today, our students are skewing older, and again, this is also nationally across the United States. And so we've really been looking to see how we can ensure that these campuses are vibrant across the state, as has been put in the select committee's report, I believe. So looking for ways that we can meet the needs of our students today, and also at the same time really being good and valuable members of our communities. And so, you know, I did mention one of the things we've been looking at is, you know, should we be looking for housing that would meet the needs of folks who do want to live in these communities year round, which would make our communities more vibrant. Looking for ways that we can indeed have more online and hybrid courses. So those are the kinds of things that we're really looking at, is thinking of ourselves not only as universities sitting in these towns, but thinking of ourselves as community members sitting in these towns. And we've had conversations, some beginning conversations with some of our partners in these areas.
Thank you.
I will say that one of the things that Chancellor Malk is doing is having hundreds of these conversations, and she's met with more than 1,000 people in the last 12 months. So I know it might seem like she's been here a long time, but it's just been a year. And so this has really been her primary focus. And it's something that we're really laser focused on, because our campus communities are very important to us, whether it's the Castleton location or the Linden location. They're all important, and it's how we make sure that we best use them.
And really working with our partners in these communities. I just think that's so important. You get to the communities, and you know, these places really are just so important to the folks that are in these communities.
Good. Thank you. That was
Thank you.
really helpful and informative.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
And good.
Thank you.
You're doing important work, so thank you.
I think you guys have a much harder job this year.
We are done for the day, so we can go off.